52 seconds of logos! Also, Image Movers, the company that brought us Mars Needs Moms. And while that has nothing to do with this movie, it will always be a sin. Seems like as good a time as any to point out that this movie was released in July of 2006, because nothing says Halloween and monsters like the middle of f***ing July.
Get off my lawn!
Clint Eastwood.
My
Stay away from my house!
We do discover that Nevercracker is actually trying to protect the children from the house, but that doesn't explain why he has to break the tricycle. Seems like she could get off his property and farther away from the house quicker if she had it intact. Also, a guy that old and skinny could not rip a tire free from a tricycle. And then he steals the bike! 2006, when CG animation still wasn't past the faces being creepy as f***ing hell stage.
October 30th, another tricycle.
So he's stolen multiple tricycles, and this kid is logging it in a journal instead of calling the police? Also, what's up with the product placing Sharpie, but only the green ones?
You cannot stay up in your room all day staring at an old man through a telescope.
This is presented as good parenting, but if these parents were good, they'd have put the kibosh on the old man spying ages ago.
When I was your age, I did exactly the same thing. Of course, it was with binoculars and involved the lovely Jensen twins.
I never thought there could be a creepier dad in a movie than Eugene Levy from American Pie, but here we are.
Elizabeth will be here in a few hours.
You're just leaving?
If anything happens, call the police and hide in your closet.
Are you f***ing kidding me? Literally anything that happens today to this kid is his terrible parents' fault. No discussion is needed. Christ. A basketball net costs like a few bucks. Too many movies try to make us feel bad about neglected hoops by showing them netless, but netless hoops are either abandoned or owned by super cheap-ass people. Double dribbling. The ball bounces off the rim and onto his face and then down the driveway into the street, slowly, and not toward the old trike stealer's house. But then movie will have you believe that ball ended up f***ing here, and that is some bull.
Chowder, your ball just landed on Nevercracker's lawn. It doesn't exist anymore.
This is the dumbest suburban kid horror cliche of all the dumb suburban kid horror cliches. There's no way animated Steve Buscemi would be breaking all these tricycles and stealing all these kids' toys without some pissed off parents who just shelled out tons of money for said items, raising enough of a stink to stop this nonsense. Calling shenanigans on this old-ass creeper lifting a middle schooler up into the air like this. Stealing. I get movies trying to show us how the house wants Nevercracker to stay, but there is literally a concrete walkway that would be much easier to roll the stretcher on, so why are they even on the grass in the first place?
No siren, never a good sign.
Well, no reason to tell any adults about this. Let's just, movie along. Also, I'm calling bull on not a single goddamn person being out in the street, other than these two kids. There was a f***ing ambulance wheeling off the neighborhood psycho. It would be like Gossip Central out here.
I'm a murderer. No, you're not. When it's an accident, they call it manslaughter.
Chowder would be great at CinemaSins.
I don't do board games, shrinky-dinks, or tuck-ins.
Pretty sure if you do the shrinky-dink before the tuck-in, you're okay, but afterwards might involve jail time. Either way, this is probably a good call on Z's part.
Gosh, DJ, why'd you break that?
One thing movies consistently get right is how few hired babysitters actually give about your child. Holy that is a big key. It's as long as his pencil and half the length of his clipboard. Christ. Any kid that puts pictures of spiders right above his bed is a servant of Satan. I know right now we're all confused as to exactly what the extent of the house's powers are when Nevercracker is not around, but thankfully the movie will explain all of that and leave us with no questions, right? Why is he answering the phone? Why isn't the babysitter? Yeah, super creepy, but also insanely impossible that DJ would be able to hear the phone ringing all the way across the street in the monster house. The babysitter's boyfriend is making out with the young boy's stuffed animal.
Chowder, where are your parents?
If that was a concern, why is DJ calling Chowder after 11 o'clock? And no neighbors saw or heard this, which is weird, because the kid looked at his clock a few minutes ago and it wasn't even midnight yet. I'm confused as to how we've drained the lake as a selling point.
Chowder.
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 Chowder is a dick to peace and quiet.
DJ, this is why nobody will sit next to us at lunch.
Pretty sure it's actually because Chowder wears a cape and can't dribble a basketball correctly, but semantics.
I'll go ding-dong ditch the house and you'll see.
Let's forget this game's super racist original name, if that's even possible, and focus on the fact that Ding Dong Ditch is an assholes game and only little bitches ever play it.
Hey, DJ, who am I? Get off my lawn!
Jeremy from CinemaSins? Chris from CinemaSins? Barrett from CinemaSins? Okay, I give up. He rings the bell and just f***ing stands there. Granted, he is pretty sure the house isn't haunted, but a key component in Ding Dong Ditch, the game, is to run away really fast just as soon as you knock or ring the doorbell. The way they turn this house into a living creature is outstanding. Chowder was salutatorian in his graduating class at the Prometheus School of Running Away from Things. I really don't care if you think your neighbor's house is haunted. Pointing a telescope at his or her house is wrong, creepy, gross, and wrong. But Rear Window kicks ass, and even Disturbia is super watchable, despite the aforementioned wrongness.
Hello? There's an angry dad on the phone looking for the
She didn't see that. She saw that, right? The
I hate Mexican food.
Me too.
Is this pee? Because if it is, that's really gross.
Okay, it probably is pee, as the boys already admitted to the babysitter that they peed in at least one Mountain Dew bottle. But how the would she know this on sight? That's impossible. I can't figure out why this was included in the movie.
Authority can be so...
He's right, though.
Didn't see that coming.
You didn't?
I think it's time to call the police.
You do? Also, surely a dog has peed on the yard before, so that can't be the first time this has happened. Even with no one seeming to ever step outside their f***ing house in this neighborhood, I still have no clue how Nevercracker has kept this under wraps. He's been covering it up since Bones was a f***ing child.
I was in the forest wrestling with a bear claw when we got the call.
Cops, donuts, jokes as old as time.
All three of you step to the car now.
Causing hearing loss.
We don't have backup. It's just Judy at the station.
I feel like this town is big enough to have more than 2 cops on duty, and if they only had 2 cops on duty, they would at least separate them to cover more ground, no?
Skull is in the game zone right now. And you don't want to mess with him when he's in the game zone.
Not even for a massive emergency.
Calm down. You make me want to throw up in some tinfoil and eat it.
What? That is not a thing people say.
In my travels to the video store and comic book conventions, and I've heard tell of man-made structures becoming possessed by a human soul.
Skull's position. Okay, so it's possible that he could play the video game without looking, but pretty sure he can't play it without hands.
So how do we kill it?
You've got to strike at the source of life, the heart.
Just FYI, this movie is taking its mythical horror rules cues from this f***ing guy. Like, why not literally anyone else? An old priest? A creepy undertaker? No, they go with video game guys. I know the main kid's parents are away for a few days, but what about everybody else's parents? What about the babysitter? This movie looks at the concept of adult supervision and gives it a mighty middle finger. The whole goddamn neighborhood went away for a few days, I guess. Christ, I'm not saying spy on your neighbors, people, but look out a window now and then, and maybe you spot some kids playing in the street and save a life. Also, pretty sure a trash can with 2 open ends is no longer a trash can and therefore would not exist. Off. Except this isn't how vacuums work. Someone would have to be pushing it. Cops blocking. They're f***ing arresting these kids for being in the road inside trash cans? Cops in horror movies have to be idiots because it's a horror movie cliche. They survived this. Not for nothing, this is the second time this movie is cut abruptly to black screen in the last 2 minutes. Here, the camera goes into a closing crack in a piece of wood paneling, then we do 5 seconds of speedy travel through a green tube, and then we pop out in the living room. David Fincher's panic room, eat your heart out.
I don't think the house knows that we're in here. I bet it thinks we're still in the car.
It can see you when you're across the street looking at it through your telescope, but sure, it would have no clue when you're right on top of it.
Find the heart, put out the fire. Got it.
They proceed to just look around in the main room, despite them all knowing for sure that the chimney the smoke was coming out of was on the far left side of the house.
Explosives. It's so cool.
With all of the evidence laid before the viewer of Chowder being a peeping Tom, urinating in bottles, abilities to construct cold medicine cocktails, and now his clear love of explosives, I'm wondering if we should be rooting for the house to eat him because he's clearly going to grow up to be a serial killer. F***ing Chowder. Uvula shadowing. God damn, another cut to black?
Look at all these toys.
So if we're supposed to believe Nevercracker is feeding all these kids' toys to the house, why is everything still intact? She has a uvula but no way to digest anything?
I think you guys should have a look at this.
You better take a look at this cliche.
Constance. Holy moly. He really did eat her. Couldn't have. Her whole body is buried in cement.
For anyone who thinks Coraline is a f***ed up movie for kids, let me introduce you to Monster House. Candles, a picture. Is that a chicken wing? More chicken wings. Or maybe those are gizzards. Valentine's chocolate box. More gizzards, more pictures, and more candles. That looks like a newspaper cone filled with chicken gizzards on its side.
Why would he build her a shrine if he murdered her?
Well, Jenny, I can give you at least 200 Lifetime Movie Channel titles to check out to help you understand better.
My ball! Where are you going? Come on.
King Chowder! This works. After they pulled the house's uvula and made it puke them out, water filled up the whole first floor. And we even see tear water pour out the second-story window. But we will later see the heart of this house, the fire, kept burning somehow and kept spewing out smoke.
Oh yeah? Yeah? Do you want to hear my big idea?
Does it involve getting out of carpet rain from the house? Because that should currently be top priority.
It's her. The house is her.
My wife, the house. Why the was her cage cart all the way out here outside the circus proper?
I can take you away from here.
If you want to, I can save you. I can take you away from here.
They're just kids, dear.
And what are they doing there? This is literally the only house for miles, and it isn't even completed yet.
No!
The use of the house in this movie is imaginative and awesome, but if it could do this the whole time, why hasn't it yet?
The house is alive!
I mean, you've known this for a while now, so I'm honestly not sure why Nevercracker was worried about Halloween. Other than the random kids a few minutes ago, we've seen no sign of anyone trick-or-treating.
You stay away from those children, Constance!
Constance, whew.
I've always done what's best for you, haven't I?
Movie for kids about a haunted house suddenly becomes a ponderous debate about death rights and the legality of pulling your spouse's plug.
Take this.
Never, ever, ever give dynamite to kids. Well, he's dead now, right?
Look who just won!
Premature celebration. I swear to Christ, these characters are all coated in Teflon.
Guys, anytime now!
This motherfucker is the luckiest SOB to ever exist.
DJ, hurry!
If you were to tell me that a portion of this script's dialogue was lifted from old Full House episodes, I would totally believe you. In keeping with the entire film, no one saw or heard this. Hey man, don't cry. She'll be back in the sequel.
45 years. We have been trapped for 45 years.
That's a lot of missing bodies piling up that apparently no one has ever investigated. Mom sees her kid and his friend dressed this way and dirty and guesses they dressed up for Halloween as dirty pirates. And this scene is only here to bloat the runtime. This mom is a moron, and dirty pirates is not something kids dress up as. Though if they did, they would at least wear dirty pirate clothes instead of dirty jeans and dirty t-shirts.
Candy time? Candy time. We're back!
Might want to grab something to actually put the candy in. Just a thought. This movie has a couple credit scenes and none of them are fun, interesting, or worth watching. Just FYI.
Chow dear! Chow dear! It's chowder! Say it right!
Look at all these toys.
Get those wonderful toys.
Shut down all the garbage mashers on the detention level, will ya? Do you copy? Shut down all the garbage mashers on the detention level!
Soldier strapped to an explosive device.
I'm serious!
What was that?
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Let it ride!
I control the TV.
We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical.
A phone call. Would you like a chocolate-covered pretzel?
I immediately regret this decision.
Man, that's a real shame when folks be throwing away a perfectly good white boy like that.